In the previous lesson, we learned a cool trick for your dashboard. So here you have a percentage completion or whatever statistic that you have. If I go here and I change it to 34%, you can see that this bar will reflect the percentage completion. So now we're gonna do a trick that is even cooler than last one. So here you have 56%. If I change this to, for example, 34%, you can see that this will get filled based on the data that I put. And here, if you put even any word, for example, hello, it will work the same way. So we put 78%, you can see it gets filled based on the percentage. So how to do this? You will need a little bit of VBA, but don't worry, even if you don't know VBA, it's gonna be easy. Because number one, it's only 10 lines of codes. Number two, I'm gonna explain how it works. And number three, you'll be able to download this Excel file. I'm gonna put a link in the description. So let's start. First of all, I'm gonna create a new sheet. I'm gonna go to view, click on grid line. Then I go to this, I copy paste it and put it here. We're gonna put here, let's say 56% and here 56%. Okay. Next, we're gonna add a word art. So we do insert, text, we have word art, we select this. So here I have my text, I'm gonna put it here. I won't type anything here, I'll go to the formula bar and I'll do equal my word. So now we have 56%, we go to home, we make this bigger. So this is fine now. Next, we're gonna do a formatting change. So we click on it, shape format. Here you have this text effect. You click, you have transform, and I will choose this one, the square, because it will fill the whole box, which is something I personally like. The next thing we're gonna do is understand manually how this fill thing work. So for this, we're gonna right click and do format shape. If you do this, you'll get this menu that will open, and here you have shape option and text option. I am only worried about the text, so I'm gonna click on it, and then I'm gonna look at what are my options. So I have text fill here, and I have text outline. Text fill is basically the color of my text. Text outline is basically the border. So I want a border because it looks nicer. I'm gonna select the black color, close this, and then here I'm gonna use something called gradient fill. So if you see here, you have gradient fill. You have several options under gradient fill to get the effect. Number one, you have the direction. So if I click here, I can fill it from top to bottom, I can fill it from left to right, and so on. I'm gonna choose from bottom to top. If you see, whenever I select something here, this angle will change. So for example, you see I changed this, the angle changed. So remember this number 270 is my angle. The next thing is that you have this gradient stops. So gradient stops, you might have many of them. So if you have many of them, let's say I have like 3 or 4, I can just click on them and delete them. The goal here is to only leave 2 of them. One of them you will color in white, and one of them you will color in black. And if you see, whenever I'm moving them together like this, the position percentage will change and also the coloring. So the effect that I want is basically the black in below, and once the black reaches the white one, it will be perfect. So if you see, both of them will have the same percentage. Here, for example, the position is 26%. So these are the most important elements that we're gonna use in order to play with our shape and to get the desired effect. We did this manually, but we want VBA to do this automatically. So let's start. The first thing I'm gonna do is play with this and record a macro. Now, recording a macro is a very useful thing because sometimes you don't know what to do but you can do the action on Excel, so the macro will point you to what you need to use, and then you can do some research online and find the real code that you need. So let's start. Here, if you see at the bottom, I have a recording button for a macro, so I can click on it. I have macro 1, so I can keep it as macro 1. I can select where I want it. I can say I want it in this workbook, for example, and I say OK. And then I can play with things. For example, here I will select my WordArt, and then I'll go with the direction. So I'll choose two directions. Let's assume this and this to see what happens only. And then here I have my gradient stop. I'm just going to move them to see what happens. And then I can stop my macro. So I click here, I stop my macro. Let's go and see the result. So here I have developer. If you don't have developer tab, you can just right click anywhere. Let's assume you are in view. You right click here, you say customize the ribbon, and here you have to click on developer. You have to tick it. Now I have developer. I will go to Visual Basic, and in Visual Basic I will have different sheets. So what is our sheet now? It is this one, sheet 4. So I double clicked on it, and then I get a blank sheet. You also have here module. When you record the macro, everything will come in module. So if you see here, I have active sheet, shapes, range, array, rectangle 1 dot select. So what is rectangle 1? Basically, rectangle 1, if you see here when I click on the shape, it's the name of our shape. So if I go back to Visual Basic, I'm selecting our shape. Then I'm doing selection dot shape range dot text frame 2 dot text range etc dot fill dot visible equal MSO true. So that tells me that this thing is actually the property that I need to play with. And this is how recording a macro can help you do things. So now we're just gonna copy paste this. We go to our sheet and we do public sub, and we call it anything. For example, WA for WordArt. Let's copy paste this. I'm gonna put some apostrophes in front of them. They'll turn in green, which means that this will not get executed in the code. And let's try to replicate what we need to do. So we do with. So what is the name of our sheet? It is sheet 4. I know here you have some other names and it's misleading, but in order to not get lost, I'm gonna say this is WA, for example. So when you go here, you can see this is called WA, so my sheet name is now sheet 4. Dot, what do we have here? We have shapes, this thing. So we can just copy paste it, and then we can remove array because we don't need it. This, if you are new to VBA, you will learn it by experience. So we have this, we do and with, because we started with a with. And the way to understand this with and so on, basically, there are lists of objects in VBA. So it's like, for example, when we talk about a car. You have the car, which is the shape. Then within the car, you might have, for example, the seat. So that's a sub-shape. In the seat, you will have, for example, the seat belt, and you have the normal seat. So you can select, for example, the normal seat. Then within normal seat, you'll have the color, and then you can change the color, and so on. So this is what we are doing. So now, what we are doing is just selecting our shape, right? Now, if you see here, I have text frame 2.text range. So that's the text. So if I copy this, I put it here, you can see that here I'm accessing text frame 2, I'm accessing the text, the font, and I want to fill the font. Let's go back here. What did I have when I selected this? You see, this is text fill. I access this thing. Then within this, I access text option. Then I access this, and then this. This is the same in VBA. Again, if you do some research, you can find those elements. Now, within the fill, now I can continue. It's like in the car. I can select something even deeper. So the first thing we need to look at is something called two-color gradient. What does this mean? Two-color gradient basically means that I am selecting two colors here. So you remember we selected this, we did gradient fill. Within gradient fill, there are several options. So now we just set it up to horizontal. And then comma 1. This variant, you don't need to worry too much about it. But basically, we have now two colors. The next thing I was showing you before is the angle. You remember when we changed the direction, the angle changed. So we need to define the angle. So that's also easy. We do dot, and then VBA will show us exactly what we have. If you see, you scroll down, you find gradient angle. So you select it, equal 270. Same thing as there. Then you have these things, these ones. What are those? They are called gradient stops, right? So let's go find gradient stops. Gradient stops. You see it's here. I found it. If you see gradient stops has something called index as long. So what does it mean? Again, we go here, we look at it, we have stop 1 out of 2, if you see here. Then you have stop 2 of 2. So basically the first one that I have is 1 and the second one is 2. As simple as that. Then we do dot. Again, we have a submenu. We want color. How do we define a color? We could use RGB. And again, you can select the color that you want. So for example, let's go here. Let's make this black. And let's make this white, just to make sure. If you click on the black one, you click here, more fill color, custom. You can see that RGB is 0, 0, 0. We do the same for the white one. Custom RGB is 255, 255, 255. So let's set it. We go here equal RGB, as simple as that, 0, 0, 0. We saw it there. If you want others, you just feel free to change those numbers and it will work. Then we need gradient stops 1 dot position. Why position? Because if you remember, we can see that we have a position for each one. So if I click on it, you have position 25%. And we said for us to get the right effect, we need both to have the same position, right? So this is why we search for position equal. We need to get the position. Where is my position in the sheet? My position is actually here. It's the percentage. It's cell C3, right? C3. So to get a cell, you do sheet 4, which is your sheet, dot range, double quotation, C3, close the parenthesis and the double quotation, dot value. So now I took the value that is in cell C3. And then I need the same for the second one, because I have two gradients. So I do 2 here, 2 here. This is the same. I want the same value. But here we checked and we saw it's 255, 255, and 255. And now we are done. So in order for this to work, you just have to add a button. So we'll do insert. We can do illustration shape. We can put another shape here. We can right click, assign macro, and then we select our macro. We say OK. Now if you change this to, for example, 34, let's do here this equal this one. You can click and then you see that it will change. So here 45, you click and you can see it will get filled 45%. So this is cool, but you'll tell me that you want this to be automatic. So how do we do this? There are some events in Excel that you could use to achieve that. The first one is the simple case. is when you change something in a cell, you want this to update automatically. So we click here under General, we click under Worksheet, we get Selection Change. Selection Change means you were selecting, for example, this cell, now you select the other one. This is not what I want. I want when I change this, for example, C3. You can click here, you can go here and say change. You don't need now this one. We remove it. Now what happens? If a cell value changes, I want to execute my code. Now I only want C3. If C3 changes to execute my code, I also can put C2 if I want, because C2 has the word, right? If target is here actually, so that's the cell, dot address. Again, whenever you have doubts, you can use this methodology by clicking on the dot and seeing what you have in the menu. We do double quotation, dollar sign, C3, we need another dollar sign, 3, double quotation, or target dot address is equal to dollar sign C dollar sign 2, then, and we put end if here. What do we need to do? We need to run this, right? So we just write the name of the function. So now, if I go back and I change this to 89%, you can see that I didn't click the button and it worked. If I change this to hello, you can see that it works also. Now, if you do this as a formula, for example, you make it equal to C4. If I change this to 67%, for example, nothing happens. Why? Because you need another event. So for this, you need the event called calculate. So we go to calculate, we put it, and here I don't need to check anything. It's just when it calculates, I just want to execute WA. So I just write WA in this. What happens now is that if I change this 56%, it works. Last bonus thing I will teach you is that assume that you want to change colors based on percentage. So we saw that this was the 000. We can add an if statement, for example, and say, for example, if sheet4.range C3 is bigger than, let's say, 50%, we can put 0.5, then we do end if, and we create a few variables. So first variable will be dim, we write dim, R, G, and B as integer. And here we say R is equal, I'm just gonna make up some colors. G is equal to 78 and B is equal to 126. Else, let's put R is equal to 0, G is equal to 0, and B is equal to 0. And here, instead of putting 0, 0, I'll put R, G, and B. So those are my three variables, right? So now what will happen is that if the value is more than 50%, more or equal than 50%, I'm gonna get this color that I have defined. So let's try it out. Let's say that you have 78%, you can see that I get this color. If I have 20%, it becomes black, and so on. So you can play with this as much as you want. The thing that I wanted to teach you is this cool effect. So I hope you liked this lesson, and if you did, please subscribe to the channel and like this video.